Hi, my name is David Puterbaugh, and today we're going to go over the Revive H2 hydrogen carbon cleaning service. So basically what a hydrogen carbon cleaning service is, it's a replacement for a traditional chemical-based carbon cleaning service, a fuel induction service. So instead of using chemicals and having to go to the parts department and grab bottles and mix up into the tank and put an S tool in front of the throttle body and all that, our machine makes this a very simple service. So if you've ever heard of a nitrogen machine or have one in your shop or seen one and how they operate, a nitrogen machine makes nitrogen on demand and you pump that in the tires. You can kind of equate that to what we're doing with this machine. So this machine creates oxyhydrogen gas, so on demand. So inside of the machine, there's a 2-gallon tank with distilled water and an electrolyte solution. And then there's 2 big rods that are inside of that tank called an anode and a cathode. And then we have a big power supply that throws power to the rods inside of the machine, and we're separating the oxygen and the hydrogen from the water, recombining it into oxyhydrogen gas. So what comes out of the end of this hose is pure oxyhydrogen gas. And then all we simply do is we feed it into the air intake of any gas or diesel engine, actually any type of engine. All we have to do is get it into the airstream. So how this is different than a traditional chemical is, with chemicals, you're breaking the carbon up, you're melting it in the intake, you're pushing it downstream. And where does it have to go? It has to go past the oxygen sensor, catalytic converter, and things like that. So if you've ever done this long enough and seen enough of these services or been around long enough, you've probably turned check engine lights on or damaged an oxygen sensor or catalytic converter, because those chemicals will pool up in the intake and then go downstream and cause failures in some of those components. With hydrogen, you never have to worry about that. So with hydrogen, what we're doing is, hydrogen is lighter than air, so it gets pulled right into the airstream, and then it goes into the engine and it reacts with those carbon deposits and turns it back to a clean burning hydrocarbon. It burns it off as a fuel. So you don't have any of the benzenes or the smokes, or technicians yelling put a hose on it, or have to do the service outside or test drive it down the road when you're done. So with hydrogen, it burns very cleanly. So how hydrogen works is it attaches to the carbon, and there's a chemical reaction that happens that actually turns it back to a clean burning hydrocarbon and burns it off as a fuel. So you don't have any of the smokes or the benzenes or any of those things, the toxic chemicals that you have with a traditional chemical service. Basically what you'll end up seeing is maybe some drips of water out of the end of the exhaust. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how simple this service is to do. You're just going to roll the machine up to the vehicle. You're going to pop the hood on the vehicle. I've already taken the liberty, this vehicle is already warmed up, but you want the vehicle up to operating temperature, okay? And so now what we're going to do is we're going to hook into the air intake. So to do that, all we have to do is get this hose somehow past the air filter, but before the mass airflow sensor, okay? You never ever want to hook this to direct vacuum, because if you do, if you see we have a sticker right here on the machine, we never want to hook it to direct vacuum, because if you do, you're going to suck the water out of the machine. You could potentially hydrolock the engine. So very critical, always only get it past the air filter, but before the throttle body. Now to do this, all we're going to do on this particular vehicle is we're going to go right underneath this clamp with one of our adapters. We're going to get this into the airstream. We're going to tighten down the clamp. And over here on the machine, it's very simple. We're just going to put 30 minutes on the timer. So we're going to run it for 30 minutes on a gas engine. We're going to run it for 1 hour on a diesel. And as you can see, it's already ready to go. We're just going to hit the on button, and it's going to start running. So before I start the engine up, I want to show you what's coming out of the end of this hose. Typically we would already have the engine running, but I want to show you this. So this is what's coming out of the end of the hose. So this is pure oxyhydrogen gas. It's perfectly safe. You can smell it. We are not creating steam. Some of the old timers, they say, you're steam cleaning the engine or you're pouring water down to clean the carbon out. That's not what we're doing. This is oxyhydrogen gas, and it's highly flammable, okay? So that's what's going into the engine. So we're gonna shut this off for just a second. So the first thing you wanna do is start the vehicle. Get our hose hooked up. Very simply, just plug it right in here. And again, we have it set for 30 minutes. So all we're going to do is hit the on button, and you're actually now doing the service. Very simple. So now what's going to happen is the vehicle is going to idle for 30 minutes. About every 10 or 15 minutes, just go give it a couple of good pulls on the throttle, and that's it. So now you could walk away, you could go work on other vehicles. You don't have to babysit this like you have to with the chemical fuel services. Make sure that the air pressures are correct, or have throttle depressors or anything like that. This, you simply hook it up, start the service, and walk away. Now, if the engine was to shut off, you don't want to keep pumping hydrogen inside of an engine. So there's an emergency stop switch. So let's say you walked off to the parts department, or at some point the engine shut off. You don't know how long the engine's been turned off. So what you're simply going to do is you're going to come over here and hit this emergency stop button. And what that's going to do, you're going to see it says emergency stop. It now has stopped producing hydrogen, and it's stopped it right in the middle of its service. Hydrogen is lighter than air, so all you have to do is give it a couple of minutes, and the hydrogen will dissipate very quickly. Then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go restart your vehicle. You're going to let it run for about 30 seconds, and then you can come back over here and just turn the emergency stop button to the right, and it goes back to the service wherever it left off. And so that's it. Basically what you're going to do is you're just going to let this thing go through its cycle. The machine is going to shut off at the end, and you're done with the service. And what's great about this is all you have to do is unhook the hose, shut the hood, and give it back to the customer. You don't have to test drive this afterwards like you do with a chemical fuel service.